All right, everyone. Hello, welcome to our call today. We are doing a workshop on decision making with intuition. And so that is something I particularly have felt like I've made so much progress in. As we'll discuss, I was not always intuitive or a decision maker. So either of those did not really resonate with me. And so I am happy to share the information that I have learned with you guys. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to go through some slides of a module that I created for my group coaching Alignment Academy. So Alignment Academy, we do like weekly meetings a couple times with coaching, and there are modules that people can watch. And you might have, let's see, you might have actually seen the nervous system modules. I offer those to you guys for free because that information I feel like is so helpful, the nervous system modules. So if you need help with downloading those or where to get those, please let me know. I think I can do this. Okay, to make it bigger like this. So, this is doing like a video. Anyway, maybe we can make this work. When you're just starting to think about decision making with intuition, I want you to just think about, first of all, what are your current beliefs about yourself and your decision making? Oh, you guys, sorry, I was going to move that clock out of the way. Anyway, sorry, I think there is a presentation mode where you can see this better. That's what I was looking for. Renee, do you know that? I'm just kidding.
I do. What kind of slides are you on?
It's on Canva. I don't know why.
Oh, I don't know Canva, unfortunately.
Yeah, usually it was, okay, let me just go back to the home and just see.
I usually do have a speaker view.
Oh, on speaker view. Oh, with Zoom, through Zoom.
I mean, I'm sorry, not speaker view. The presentation view.
Presentation view. Yeah, I thought there was a place that said presentation. Anyway, I thought it would be really cool with the slides.
It still is.
It's going to be fine. Okay, it'll be cool. We'll do it this way. And you can just, practice your focusing skills on just what's in the center. And here we go. What are your current beliefs about yourself and making decisions? As I said before, I identified as someone who was horrible at making decisions. I literally would tell people that. I'm like, I don't ever care. I don't know. It's like I would poll people, I would ask for their opinion, I would read research, I would get expert opinion, and it was so confusing to me. And in fact, one of the main things that attracted me to my now ex-husband is that he was so good at decision making, and he seemed very intuitive about it, and he was just so sure of himself, and he did make really good decisions. So I was like, perfect, he's the kind of person that is a good match for me. That's how defining it was for me, that I was not good at making decisions. So, and then, as I said yesterday too, I just didn't really identify with being intuitive either, even though I wanted to be. I just didn't trust myself. But as I've been able to learn tuning into the body, I realized that that is the way for me, because I can feel how my body feels to know if I'm making an intuitive decision or not. So decisions are 50-50. What I mean by that is your brain is good at arguing both sides, right? So when I was taking polls from a lot of different people, I could see that point and I could see that, and I could make a list of two equal stacked things, right? Like you just start to decide one way, and then your brain's like, what about this? And your brain is good at that. Okay. And then you make decisions based on what you think you'll feel. So what I mean by that is, if you think about it, anything that we want, you might want to mute yourself, you guys, if you're not muted. Anything that you want, it's because you think you'll feel better when you have it. So that's just a general concept. If you wanted a new truck, you might think you'd feel, really free and you'd feel really powerful or whatever. Like you want the things you want to, have a different partner or lose weight or any of the things you want, you think you'll feel better when you have that thing. That's why you want it. So just knowing that, that's why we're making our decisions, is because we think we'll feel better if we have one thing or another. But you can get caught in spinning. So like fight or flight or freeze, especially flight, that has to do with kind of this like, I've got to figure something out. Let me do all the research. That might sound familiar if you have chronic symptoms, right? Like, I've got to read all the books and listen to all the podcasts and do everything they say. Um, and then freeze is just kind of like this overwhelm where you're thinking a lot, but not really able to take any action. And just so you know, just a concept to think of in favor of making decisions is when you're not making a decision, it does drain your energy. So the longer you let something go without deciding on it, it's kind of like in the background of your mind, just percolating and, weighing on your conscience that you have to make that decision. So the approach I'm going to teach you, there are some different approaches, but what you can experiment with is how nice it feels to just go ahead and make the decision and move on, because it won't keep, festering basically or draining your energy. I talk a lot about the nervous system. And like I said, the nervous system modules that I have are available for free. There's 4 modules. They're like an hour and 20 minutes. It goes deep into basics of the nervous system. There's lots of nuances I don't get into. I tried to simplify the most pertinent information, but it still ends up being a lot, right? So basically, you'll learn about the survival states, how they affect your body. And the parasympathetic calm state is that rest and repair state. It is the state where you are using your prefrontal cortex more. So rather than the primitive brain in survival states, you're actually using the part of your brain designed for, higher cognition most in the calm state, not in the freaked out state. Okay. Even though we think we're thinking so well, we're just not. We're using our primitive brain. So coming to that calm state means you're more, you're more cognizant. You're actually more intuitive and creative in that state. You're more connected with people in that state. You're better at learning. You're better at connecting with people. So this parasympathetic calm state is something that I teach you to get into because it has so many health benefits. And because that's what we mean when we talk about regulating your nervous system, is getting to the parasympathetic calm state. It's the rest and repair state. So that is where we want to make our decisions from. And we want to be able to really know what the difference feels like in our body, so that when we have, some really uncomfortable sensations, we can say like, oh, that's not where I'm making my best decisions from. That's anxiety or whatever. So that's what we'll be looking for. So you want to know what it feels like in your body and know that you can start trusting the answers that come from that state. So what does that alignment or resonance or parasympathetic rest and digest state feel like in your body? Here are a few different ways to look at it. And so this will help. And I want you to, as I'm reading them, just feel what goes on in your body. You might start to feel some tenseness with certain words or ideas. Okay. So with alignment, with intuition, the parasympathetic calm state, I'm calling it all those different things, but it's the same idea. When we make decisions from there, when we have the idea of what decision we're going to make, it's a decision that leads, it's a clear decision or action. Where anxiety is like focusing on the worst case scenarios. So it's like, this might happen, versus like, I'm going to, say this to this person. Alignment or intuition can point towards healthy decisions. So it usually won't be like a mean or spiteful or like cruel thing that you're coming up with. They're like, compassionate things, loving things, that may still involve some boundaries or whatever, but it doesn't mean it's not like coming from anger or fear. Anxiety it's difficult to come up with that finalized decision. Alignment doesn't make you feel bad or sick, but in your body, that is, but anxiety feels uncomfortable or painful. Alignment can be confirmed in the environment. So you could look around and you could say, you know, if I move to this place, I'll be closer to my work or something. Like that's a tangible thing. Worries are uncertain or they cannot be confirmed. So it's kind of, again, like you're going to that worst case scenario, all these hypotheticals. Well, I don't know if she really thinks that, but, you know, I'm worried about that, whatever, right? So these are ways that we know if we're making those decisions from the calm place. And then alignment, a few different words to describe it would be like calm, comfort, conviction, reassurance, stillness. And then anxiety feels more like worry, confusion, feeling rushed, irritable, restless, discouraged. So with those types of descriptions, you can start to get a sense of the areas of your body that might feel more tight with anxiety, or they might feel, for me, you know, my stomach is a great indicator if I'm making that decision from fear or from anxiety. And when I have more of that calm sense, I know that that's, you know, from the state I want to be making decisions from. Where it does get a little confusing, I will admit, is that you can have some mixed feelings, right? Because we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day. So many of them are subconscious. So you can have this calm assurance, like when I'm doing things for my business, right? I might want to post something and I feel a little vulnerable saying it. So I know that I want to post it. And also there's this discomfort. The discomfort isn't coming from the decision and whether that's right or wrong. It's coming from my thoughts of not wanting to be vulnerable and what that would mean and blah, blah, blah. So you might have something that you feel strongly about and some fear mixed with it, but look for, you know, at least some of that calmness when you're making that decision versus exclusively everything is from fear and worst case scenarios. But know that it's not always black and white. I wish it would be that easy. And, you know, if it was that easy, you would have made the decision already. So the fact that you have a decision to make and you haven't already made it tells me that there's some good and some bad from either decision. So just being like, you know, in life, either way I go, there's going to be some things I like, some things I don't. And that's going to happen if I don't make that decision too, then, you know, it starts to make that decision a little easier. In fact, I thought I had a slide about that, but basically, you know, some thoughts of basically like, oh, I think it's coming up. Don't want to spoil it. Okay, writing to your intuition. So this is the first general technique that I want to share. It's just a general principle of getting to your subconscious is through writing, through journaling. So it's weird how we can think all these things in our head and then we actually start to write things out, and it slows down our brain enough as we're writing things out that we can start to, you know, get in the zone a little bit more, get a little more intuitive, and you'll have some insights. A lot of times, at least I do. It's one of the best ways I have insights as to what's going on in my subconscious. You may notice that your journaling sounds like a lot of really young type of sounding beliefs. You know, they don't like me and that really hurt and I'm so sad. And that's how, you know, when I journal, a lot of times it kind of indicates to me this like younger level of myself. And so anyway, just getting things out on paper, okay, I'll start from the beginning. Writing helps slow the thoughts to allow for inspiration. Slowing the thoughts, you get more space in between. Getting things out on paper, sometimes that act just can help that spinning mind, because it's kind of like sometimes we want to not forget something, so we think about it obsessively and like, oh, don't forget to worry about this. So just writing it down can help that. You can do what's called a thought download, which is just like you let any word that you're thinking come to the paper, or you can do like a question and answer with your future self. So what I mean by this is you could imagine, this is another practice and one that I get into when I coach people, but like if you've ever imagined your future self, or you want to imagine some future version of yourself who's, has that hindsight 2020 and can see that everything's going to be okay, and has succeeded in these ways, and you want to ask him or her what you do, you could actually literally write that on paper. I'm not sure what to do here. And then imagine that future self giving you advice and just write down whatever comes to mind. This was the question I was thinking of. If you knew both ways would turn out just fine, which would you choose? So that can be a nice question to ask yourself to see where you really land. Because sometimes, usually, almost always, we assume the worst in both cases. Excuse me. Like, what would be the worst that could happen if this choice or this choice, I made? So what you want to just do is assume that either way would turn out just as you want it. Then which would you choose? Okay. And then this is my favorite part. This is called muscle testing. You might have heard of this before. As a physical therapist, actually, we talked about muscle testing in a different way. So you can, you'll see chiropractors do it where you hold out your arm and they push it down. And you can actually, if someone else is there, they can help muscle test you. But I want to teach you some ways that you can use your own body as an intuitive answer for yes or no questions. Okay, so my favorite one is the sway test. I don't know if it's actually called that, but that's what I call it. So what you do is you stand up and you close your eyes and ask yourself a yes or no question. To calibrate, you're going to start with asking yourself your name. Something like your name, your birth date, something that you know the clear answer to, and just notice if your body sways forward a little or backward a little. That's usually what people do, either forward or back. So why don't we give everyone who wants to try it a chance to try it? A lot of you are already camera off. You can be camera off if you like. There's a little space by where you are in that room or wherever. Go ahead and stand up and just take a second to kind of shift your weight and, maybe relax your shoulders. It does work best when you're calm. So if you're not getting a clear answer, they suggest like taking a drink of water or trying again when you're calmer. But why don't you start by just asking yourself, is my name Robert or whatever, right? Like ask yourself something that's not your name and see how your body tends to move. Does it tend to move backwards a little, forwards? For me, usually backwards is a no and forwards is a yes. So then ask yourself a yes question. You could ask yourself, is my name this? Or is my birthday this? Do I live in this place? Whatever, right? And calibrate with a few questions that you do know the answer to until you feel like you're feeling something. Is anyone feeling that, Alan? I don't know if you wanted to talk or if you wanted to share on that, or if you're just unmuted and didn't realize. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So if you feel like you've kind of gotten confident with the muscle testing, or at least, you're like, I would suggest just playing around with it, like not go to your major first decision of, the one you stress over the most, but play around with it. Like you could, I do it often with, like when I'm packing for a trip, I'll just hold the shirt or something and just ask myself, should I bring this? Is it yes or no? And you could ask yourself with what food you want to eat, or do I want to go to yoga today or go on a walk, or you know what I mean? Like it's a yes or no question. So as long as you're phrasing it with a yes or no, you can get a response from yourself. So the idea is the more you're just relying on your intuition, that you will have some kind of sense of, your body giving you that forward or backward signal. I'm not sure if someone is unmuted or, okay. So,
and go to Mexico City.
let's see. There we go. Down there. Okay. All right. So that's the sway test. Hopefully you got a little chance to practice it. That's the one that I started with when I was, kind of starting my intuitive journey, and like really realizing it's like a skill you can develop. It's, not just something you're born with or not, you can actually develop it. And I used to really be hard on myself. I remember one particular time I was trying to find my snowsuit for skiing, and I was like swaying to see if it was downstairs or out in the garage or upstairs in another, and I got it wrong. And I was just like, oh, what does this mean? I'm not intuitive. And as I say it back now, it seems a little silly, or like, I don't know why it was such a big deal to me, but I really, took it to heart if I got something wrong. And so just be gentle, be compassionate with yourself. It's just more, like I said, if you're doing it more for little playful things, that can be a little easier than, let me go straight to the hardest decision I've ever had to make and I've been thinking about for the last week or whatever. Okay. And then sticky smooth. So this is a really interesting one. And the idea is, and there's actually like a video I found of like 7 different ways to muscle test. There's all different ways of having your fingers loop together. And if they part, then that's a no. And if they're strong, it's a yes, something like that, or with your finger straight. But the sticky smooth one is just with your own 2 fingers, your forefinger and thumb. And the idea is that if the answer is a yes, and your intuition knows it's a yes, it will have like this little gliding feeling between your 2 fingertips. It will feel smooth, almost like there's some oil between them or something. And then when this a no answer, it starts to feel sticky, like, kind of bumps along. So you could just try that. I've had some people say that that one works the best for them. And the thing I like about that is it's less obvious. Like, oh, another example of one I used to do a lot was like, which shampoo to buy, for example, at the store. So I would like, hold one and see if it was a yes for my body or a no for me. And then I would, pick little things like that. And I still do that actually, because I want to, I trust that if my body gives me a yes, it's something that's going to be good for me and, a good product for me to use or whatever. So the thing about sticky smooth that I like is you don't have to close your eyes in the middle of the supermarket and, ask yourself. You can just do it under the table or when your hand's in your pocket. So that's kind of a fun way. Let's see. I don't know if it will show. Mine's real smooth, but eating chips, LOL. That's awesome. So yeah, that's just, again, there are things to play around with. Don't be too hard on yourself if you're learning, because most of us have learned to suppress our intuition, whatever intuition we do have, and to not trust it. So it's like building a new muscle. It's like, even I was having a call with someone earlier and we were using like Harry Potter analogies, and he's like this young magician learning things and he's messing up some of his spells sometimes and stuff, right? So just practice. That's the main thing. Practice, 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 have fun, don't take it too seriously. And then one last piece of advice that I've learned is not to overthink those decisions that you made in the past, and just to trust that things are always working out for me. Okay, so maybe that's not a belief you automatically believe, but hopefully you can start to see that, things are always working out for me. And as you make these intuitive decisions, there are a few distinct times in my life that I've had some regret that, one time I didn't get a message, and there were a bunch of coaches that gathered that I really wanted to be part of, and I didn't get the message because I was out like exploring the city, following my bliss, going to thrift stores, and I felt very intuitive about the decision I was making. But when I started thinking about like the regret that I had from not getting that message and finding out about that opportunity, I just kept telling myself, like, I made the best decision for me at that time, even though my brain wants to second guess, because remember how our brains are so good at arguing for either side. Our brains, if it doesn't go perfectly, our brain might second guess and be like, that was the wrong decision, that wasn't intuitive or whatever. But it will strengthen your intuition so much faster if you do start trusting it and not overthinking it and not going backwards, but just looking forwards. Okay. All right. Enough of these slides. All right. So that went a lot faster than I thought. That's good. We got through the information. So I guess at this point we can just open it up to any kind of questions. Are there people that want some coaching? They want to see how they could feel differently in their body, find that parasympathetic calm state. And I don't think I can see all of you. So you might want to raise your hand if you're wanting to come on and ask some questions. We might just have a shorter workshop today too, or you can type things in the chat if you have things you want to ask. Did anyone have some success with the sway test? Was that interesting to anyone? Did you sway? Yeah. Yeah. And where can you download the other modules? Great question. I have them, like if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you can go to my link tree, and it's one of the options to have the free nervous system download. I can include it in my next email. I'm trying to think of where you all find me or follow me. Rebecca, is there a good place like email versus Facebook, Instagram? You can always message me.
Email.
Email. Okay. And are you on my email list then?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'll send it on the next email. I'll send that. And I think it should be on my website too. Yeah. So the modules, definitely download those. Look for a time. Yeah. And if it's on Instagram, easy. Look for a time that you're not feeling super overwhelmed, or if you do start watching it and feeling overwhelmed, just know that if you try it at a different time, that might go better. Because that is the one feedback sometimes I get, is that there's just a lot of information. And so if you're already in a like nervous system state and then try to ingest all the information, it might be a lot. So just there is a 15-minute summary, so you can just get a little bit of the information, and then just look for that time where you're feeling a little more peaceful and like curious, rather than like I've got to be urgent about it. That's my advice. All right. Anything else? Anyone?
I just have a question. Like I've done some of those things before, but I find that I just don't trust myself or the answer. And I know that's probably like, and maybe now learning what I've learned from you, maybe it's because I'm in a dysregulated state when I'm doing it. Like maybe I need to work on the nervous system regulation first and then try.
Yeah, I think that is a great idea, is just like, if it's not working, just kind of notice to yourself, do I feel like I'm really anxious right now? Even those little things like getting a glass of water, taking some deep breaths, that might that alone might help. Because
Mm.
sometimes you do need to make the decision, right? You're like, I don't have, I can't wait until next week when I might be feeling calmer or whatever. You're like, I need to, but again, those kind of thoughts might make you feel more urgent and then less able to get that decision, in a clear way.
Yeah. It's kind of a funny,
Right? The more urgent you are, just like one of those
the worst
ironies of
decision you're
life.
making. And then
Yes,
the worst
right?
decision you make, the more anxious you get.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I think some of those things like, starting with easy things, starting with things that are a little more fun, like that helped me more than like, okay, today I'm going to test my, intuitiveness. And, if I go to the wrong place first, I'm going to really make it mean that I have no hope of ever being intuitive. I mean, I was literally crying that day and I was just like, oh, I can't do this. And now I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was so hard on myself. But just, practicing with those little day-to-day things is just, it can be a fun and easy way to build that confidence. And then like I make major decisions this way now because I have built up so much trust that, sometimes I even laugh because I'm like thinking, then I'm like, oh yeah, I could just ask my intuition. And I like laugh to myself. So it'll come with that practice. But yeah, especially if you're practicing, you're kind to yourself.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Any other questions or experiences? Anyone having a hard time knowing what that parasympathetic calm state feels like in their body that would want to come and try to be a demo or experience it together?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, Alan, awesome. So what so far, how did that go for you? First of all, those little tests we did or those little ways to...
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
I'm just wondering why my picture is so dull.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Does it seem dull to you?
Oh, I see. Like maybe just the camera, the lighting or
Yeah.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
it looks good though. I can see you and I can hear you.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I've tried that sway before and didn't get any response, but
Okay.
I did feel something, so I'll practice.
Oh, good. Okay. Okay.
It was the other way round, but
It was it? Okay.
I did feel something. So yeah, I did yeah, so that
Okay.
was good. But
That is
no,
good.
when you said about feeling in the calm state, I've recently discovered that I think I'm stuck in a freeze state and have been for years.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, welcome. I'm so glad you volunteered because I think this will actually help a lot of people who are probably on the call or listening back, because that is a common thing. I think, especially in our adulthood, I've heard of a lot of people starting out in more of that fight or flight, especially, that nervous energy, trying to be a perfectionist, doing all the things, eventually going to burnout and freeze. And, maybe still having some fight or flight, but freeze being kind of predominantly like overwhelm, shame, hopeless, helpless, like there's just no hope. And freeze absolutely comes with that mind spinning, brain fog, fatigue, and indecision. So, yeah. So, and Renee says, what's the best way to get out of a freeze state? And this is so appropriate, right? Yeah. You're like, oh, great news to know. It's very gently, right? It's like baby steps. So it's like what we want to do because our society teaches us, and what we maybe have done before is to like push and go to like, if I could just be better at these things, then I'll get out of it. But it's really like accepting where you are and just like baby steps forward. So think of it as like a bear coming out of hibernation, or I think of like a cat that wakes up from a nap and is just like taking all these stretches before it starts like going into action mode. So it's just baby steps. So you may feel like, with overwhelm, like you can't do something because you think of the whole task, the whole, oh, I can't go on this trip because I'd have all these things I have to do. And then just taking, one baby step action. And I like having you guys all just ask yourself, what is the next best action to take, right? So you could even ask yourself that 100 times a day, that you're just like, if you're really like in this flow, just like listening to your body, you're like, what's the next best thing? And some coming out of freeze might involve more, kind of restful activities than you're used to, which may, sound counterintuitive. But I think of it like a rip current. Have you heard of like a rip current, that the more you fight it, the more it pulls you in? But the more you just like go with the flow and don't fight it, you will come out of it faster. So that sometimes involves some rest that we don't want to let ourselves do, or whatever. Or it could be, like I said, just taking one little action rather than doing nothing. But the other way, let's actually have you go into your body. We can do that together by just talking to me about what those sensations feel like when you're in freeze. So Alan, if you're willing to just close your eyes, feel what you feel in your body, and I'll walk you through getting to that parasympathetic calm state. So as you imagine freeze, there might be some certain thoughts that come up, this will never change, I'm not good enough. Usually they're more of the depressive, hopeless kind of thoughts, or overwhelmed. And if you can recreate that feeling of freeze in your body, are you able to do that, Alan?
Yeah, I feel very nervous.
Nervous. Yeah. Okay. Where do you feel that nervous feeling? In like your chest or stomach or head?
All over.
All over, in your hands and arms and everything?
Yes,
All
yeah,
over.
like
Yeah.
like a bit sweaty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And tell me more about how that nervous energy is moving. Is it like really fast, or is it as fast as your heart rate? Or tell me more.
No, I can't tell that. That's one of my problems. I have a real job to feel anything.
Mm.
It's like I've dissociated and I can't feel what's going on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's just, take it gently, and however you experience it is just perfect for today. So that, can even take a little practice getting into the body, right? And just noticing what it is you do feel and how it does feel. So maybe you could start by telling me if you could scan throughout the body and find the area that gets your attention the very most.
Shoulders.
Okay. And what do you feel? Is it both shoulders equally, or one more than the other?
Yes, it's both. They're tense,
Mm-hmm.
tension,
Tension in the shoulders.
and
Okay.
neck, and
And
neck,
neck. Okay. So
neck
like
and shoulders.
those upper trapezius muscles, if you
Yeah,
know the physiology of it. Yeah, it sounds like that tightening of the shoulders, the neck, and they feel tense. And when you imagine that feeling, does it seem like that tension is like coming in waves, vacillating, or is it just a firm
no, it's constant.
constant? Okay. And if you were to say, like, from 0 to 10, how tense it is, what number would you give it right now?
6.
Okay. So it's tense, and it's like a 6. It's in the upper trapezius, both sides, and it's constant. Now, does it seem, if you imagine it, and it's okay if, whatever your answer is, if you don't imagine it, it's okay, but does it seem to have any shape when you kind of pay attention to it and look at it?
No,
No? Okay. That's okay. And then does it seem to have, you could imagine for a second if it has any kind of texture. So sometimes people imagine steel or metal or plastic or tight ropes or rubber.
No, no,
What do you
no,
mean? You
I
don't
can't,
imagine
I
it?
can't,
Okay.
no, I can't give you a,
Okay.
no,
So it feels tight. And then does it feel like there's any temperature to it? Warm, cool?
no, 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 it's not, it's neither hot or cold, it's
Okay. Just
just
neutral.
tension and slight pain. Well, no, tight.
Mm-hmm. And the tightness that's just constant. It's not like coming and going or building. It's
No,
just like a
no, no,
tight.
no, no.
And do you imagine any type of color in that area?
Now I find that really difficult to answer your questions.
No worries. Yeah. And please don't worry about, you know, if you're doing it right or wrong, or there's really no, the best thing is just to be open to whatever is there for today and, not judge, because if it is something that you haven't practiced, it's going to take a little practice. And sometimes people have just even told me, I don't ever see in colors. And I say, well, maybe someday you will. And that day they do. So it's something that's always changing. And the more you're just open to whatever comes up and not judging it, the better it is. So
Yeah, if you said to me, can you see a red ball? I can see that.
yeah, yeah.
I can see colours.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Okay. So yeah, exactly. Like just knowing that like whatever comes up for you today is just perfect for today. So it doesn't
Yes,
mean you won't be able to in the future or whatever, but you are able to feel that sensation. It feels tight versus dull or achy. You know that. You know where it is, it's equal on both sides. It's a constant. It doesn't have a temperature. So there's a few things you are able to sense with it. Yeah.
yes,
It's like a 6. And then, not nothing too like visual quite yet, but if anything comes to you like a
I've always had all my life very tight muscles,
yeah.
which I'm sure comes from a baby.
Yeah. 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 There's a podcast
Not
interview
feeling
I did
not feeling
that
safe.
felt safe. Yeah. 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 I did an interview
Oh,
with
God.
Amy Appigan. Yeah. And she says that. She says when babies, they before they can talk and they have no way to regulate, when that fear starts to come up, the only thing they can do is tighten up through those muscles to try to feel better.
Mm,
And so that becomes a very, very primitive nervous system response when you feel stressed to tighten up there, or when you
mm,
feel in danger or, fear.
mm,
So that is a really good insight that actually is really true according to trauma research. So,
yeah,
um,
yes,
yeah, just even imagining that, you could imagine that there's this inner child, this response that's been going on since you were young, like a baby. And you could imagine, if you want to close your eyes again, you could imagine there being that inner child version of you, that infant version even, that did not get the needs met that you needed to at the time because your parents probably weren't available to, or they had their own issues or whatever. And babies have a lot of needs. They're not able to always get their needs met when they need to. So as you see that inner child, you can be this adult version, this parental version that gives you what you needed, even though at that time you weren't able to get it. So if you could imagine maybe holding the baby or hugging or rocking, you could even I like to just put my arms around each other and kind of sway side to side when I'm thinking of soothing my inner child. Or you could imagine asking the child if, I should just ask you, what is the age of your child?
I don't know.
Okay.
Very, very young.
Yeah. Like
Probably 2 or 3.
yeah. Okay. So it's not like an infant, but like it's like a little child that might want to
Mm,
crawl on your lap and just feel safe. Just feel
mm.
like, it's going to be okay. You're going to get through this. It doesn't, seem safe right now, but I've got you. How does that go as you imagine that?
Good, good.
Are you holding him?
Yes.
Yeah. How's he feeling, your inner child, little Alan?
Yeah, good, good.
Okay. Do you want to ask him in your mind? Again, just whatever comes up is fine. Nothing, or if there's an idea, but just ask him if there's anything else that would help soothe him right now, help him feel safe.
He just wants to be cuddled.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe you get a fuzzy blanket and wrap it around him and or put it over your lap. Maybe
I've
there's
got a cuddly toy that I
yeah.
use as my inner child.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You can imagine this. Can you give him that toy? And does he like that toy to hold?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you're noticing this, tell me about your body. Are there any changes?
No, no, I
No?
don't think so. No.
Okay. Okay. So just notice, when you're doing these kind of things. I was just thinking this is getting into our inner child workshop because that's the next one, I think, one tomorrow. But um that could be one way of feeling that calmer state, imagining yourself comforting your inner child and then noticing, does any part of my body relax, or do I feel looser, or like I can breathe easier in my chest or something like that. And if there's still that tightness, it doesn't necessarily mean it hasn't worked or whatever, but one thing that we know is when you're in survival states for a long, long time, it can feel uncomfortable to let yourself feel safe. So you have to build that capacity of being in the parasympathetic calm state and feeling safe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. So it's like you want to find those little pockets of time that you feel a little bit better. You feel a little calm, like, oh, things are going to be okay. I've got you. And then, notice how that feels in your body and extend those times out as much as you can. Maybe it's, yeah, you're nodding. Yeah.
Mm.
Is there some place in your body that does feel more relaxed when you get into the holding, rocking?
I can't feel it. No.
Okay. Okay. That's okay. I would just invite you to, is there anything different, like mentally at all, when we talk about that versus the sensation you were having before? Like, is there anything that feels different when you're imagining that soothing?
No.
No? Okay. It's okay. And it doesn't mean, again, that there never will be or whatever, because maybe that's one entryway, but there might be some other ways that resonate with you to feel safer at first. So we can try one other thing. I would ask you to just think about if there's been a time in your life that you did feel like joyful, grateful, maybe something really great happened and, you know, you graduated, or something that is that stands out in your mind as like everything's going to be okay and you felt good? Yeah.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that memory if you can pick one? Can you pick one to?
I used to teach line dancing, and
No way. I love
and
line dancing.
yeah, there was a certain person that used to come, and I always used to feel very good about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I used to love it.
Yeah. Okay.
Used to make me feel very, very confident, whereas I'm not sort of confident. But
Mm-hmm.
when that particular person was there, the sky was the limit.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, you can imagine. I like that. You're like laughing a little, remembering it, like imagining that day, that person, that version of yourself that was with that other person who made you feel so confident, and you were just like, maybe you were standing a little taller and your movements were just graceful, right? Like just anything that you can imagine to embody how it was feeling for you. Like in those moments, you weren't thinking about, the worries of what you had to do the next day. You were just in the moment. You were in flow. You were just, in this high vibration, basically.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. As you really try to like get into that memory, as if you were like putting yourself into that movie of, yourself at that time, does that tend to feel different at all in your body? Does that feel like a change in any place?
No, I can't feel it. No.
Okay. Well, what what you might start doing is even just noticing, like, is there some, you could even smile, like smile in real life. And then just notice, like, as you let that smile go or whatever, relax your face, like maybe it feels like there's a little more relaxation. Or so we're not looking for necessarily your whole body is shifted to this Zen place, but like maybe there's just like this little relaxation or activation of like this energy or this confidence. And, if not, again, you're just kind of looking for like little traces, just a little bit. And you can just be curious about how, even when I imagine this person and that interaction, how it did like lift my mood, and I started smiling as I was telling her about it. And you right, like I saw your face change. And so, just starting to notice those little micro differences if you can. Even if it's not like, oh, I fully got to the calmest state possible like I was when I was then.
Yeah, I just had so much confidence. It was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be an interesting like thing to think about on purpose, right? Like your mind wants to take you to all the worries and the overwhelm and the hopeless. But like if you can even just remember that time, remember those feelings, remember, the kind of music you were dancing to, or anything that involves your senses, your remembering of that energy, that confidence, that might start to feel a little better, right? Than the dissociation, the freeze, the confusion, the numbness.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think? You can open your eyes now. We're just about done, but how did that go for you?
Yeah, yeah, fine. Yeah, yeah. As I said, I feel um, I've only just recently found out this idea of being stuck in a freeze response, and I'm sure that's what's happened to me. So my nervous system, it tends to go to the freeze all the time.
Yeah.
It's pulled that way
Yeah.
because that's been my experience from a baby.
Yeah. Yeah. And, another thing that is going to be really interesting maybe and helpful is that healthy aggression. I'm doing 2 healthy aggression workshops because getting to a little bit of anger actually can help you move out of freeze too.
Yeah,
Because
that's interesting because I
yeah,
can't feel anger.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't feel it.
So that at least, because I was going to say, you could start to notice other emotions too, like, you know, even if they're not the desirable ones, like things like anger on purpose, like that actually does raise that energy to move you out of freeze. Because anger, although it isn't as blissful as happy or whatever, it is higher up than shame, despair. There's more energy to it, there's more power to it. So that can be a good way to move out of freeze. So for sure, try to catch one of those healthy aggression.
What
Yes.
happens is if I get angry about anything, I can't feel it. I get a gut pain.
Yeah.
It can
Yeah.
be horrendous. It can put
Yeah.
me in bed for a couple of days.
Yeah. Yeah. So starting to like have that capacity of like, I can hold a little bit of anger, let it release, and not be worried that if I express anger, it's going to, hurt my body. Because that is one of those body responses we can have, but we want to start teaching our body that all the emotions are safe to feel. We can feel any of them. And when we're not resisting them, we can move through them. But yeah, that sounds like a really good one for you. And Shelby says anger has been so healing for her. And yeah, there's some specific books, Dr. Schubiner's Unlearn Your Pain talks a lot about anger. Even Dr.
Got it.
Sarno. Yeah. Have you read it? You have
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yeah. Those worksheets, there's a lot of stuff in that workbook. It kind of overwhelmed me. I went into freeze because I was like, oh, there's so much. But just taking it, and we'll go through some of that stuff with the healthy aggression. But yeah, that's one way of moving out of freeze, everyone. And Rebecca said, what did that confidence feel like in your body, and tools for helping to fall asleep? That would be a good workshop just on its own. A general tip for falling asleep would be, trying to regulate your nervous system. So if you're activated, doing things like maybe dancing or, getting some energy out, journaling, but kind of starting to think about it in nervous system terms as to, what could soothe me, what could calm me, would help with falling asleep. So that could be like music or meditations, or it could be, reading or just looking at babies on Instagram and puppies or something. But yeah, and then what did that confidence feel like in your body? I think that is mainly to you, Alan, just thinking of when you think of that, younger self, that version that had that confidence, starting to label like, where do I feel that? Do I, feel my shoulders rise up a little, my chest puff out?
Well, I just felt sort of like normal, just felt well,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. And so then getting more descriptive, like what does it feel like to feel well? You know what I mean? Those are ways to start putting words to those sensations so that we can describe it just with our vocabulary.
Well, no tension.
Mm-hmm. So like relaxed. Yeah.
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 You
Okay.
said it, as you said, in the moment.
Yeah, that flow. And then just start to notice, are there some times I feel, a little more relaxed, that release of tension, that oh, my Zoom is doing something very weird. Yeah, noticing for those little moments of any kind of flow or, different feeling that you have going forward. Because sometimes our brain is like, this is how we start when we have chronic pain. We're like, I'm always in pain. But you look for those little moments of like, oh, actually, when I was talking to my neighbor, I was actually distracted and I didn't feel that, or right. So you just look going forward. Again, don't be too hard on yourself, just curious, but like, oh, I actually did feel a little more relaxed when I was watching that funny movie versus when I was listening to the news or whatever, right? Okay, well, thanks for being a volunteer. And we'll have some more free workshops coming up, you guys. And yeah, definitely check your emails. You can follow me on Instagram. I have tons of information there and some on Facebook too. I'm on Instagram a little more. And then, yeah, just let me know if you have other questions, but maybe we'll have to talk about the falling asleep stuff too, specifically, because we didn't quite get to all that. All right, you guys. Great demo. Yes. Thanks for being willing. Got lots out of that. Yes. All right, you guys. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. Okay. Bye-bye.